Hello, F1 fans. Welcome back to the F1 Masters podcast brought to you by AUBG Daily. As usual, you're with myself, Vasco, and Hari, and in this episode, we're going to be presenting our 2025 Formula One season predictions based on preseason testing and how we think the cars are looking heading into Australia for the first round this season. But predictions. And first off, we are going to start with the constructors standings, and we're going to go in reverse order. So who wants to start? Who do you have in your last place for the constructors, Vasco?
Well, first of all, I'm super excited for the season. I'm not really sure what is going to happen. There are no clear favorites as it was in the past few seasons. And I am so excited and I just cannot wait for the season to start and to be wrong with all my predictions. But still, it's always fun to make them. My 10th place is not very surprising. I think Sauber is going to occupy that place.
I actually agree, and I also think Kick Sauber will be last once again. But they have focused on 2026, so there's no surprise for me.
I mean, honestly, before we get into it, I think every team has a focus on 2026. So in my opinion, this is kind of an irrelevant argument on some teams and why they will be bad and why they will be good. Sauber in testing were quite awful, very slow. And I've also put them 10th as I haven't really seen much progression from them at all. Vasco?
For me, the case for 2026 is especially concerning for them for this year because they're going to become Audi, and this is like a transition period for them. Yeah, they have two very good drivers in my opinion, Bortoleto and Hülkenberg, but I don't think they're going to put like even a little effort in upgrading the car throughout the season. And I think at the beginning of the season they may not even be that bad when teams are still not sure on how to exactly nail their car and like progress a bit. But I think during the last 5, 6, 7, 10 races they're going to look awful and so far away from everybody. I think it's going to look like the Williams case from like 19 and 20 or Haas from 21.
But can't we say the same for teams like Haas, like Williams, like Alpine, like Aston Martin? All of these teams, I am very certain, have publicly stated that they are focused on 2026. So why is this specifically an argument for Sauber, especially because it's their last year in the sport, so wouldn't they want to at least try to be as good as they can be in their final season of F1?
I think they'll try to get as much money with as less effort as possible, and they don't have the base from last season. Like even if the cars are different this season, I think you can let's put it that way, move some of your speed from the last season, move some of your momentum from the last season to the new season. And Sauber, they didn't have any momentum. Like if it wasn't for a bit chaotic race where Zhou got 2 points, did he get 2 points? 4 points. They wouldn't even have gotten a 1 point throughout the season. So I think just the base for them is really low, and there is nothing solid to make me think that they're going to be any different. But let's move on to our 9 places, and I can start. I've placed Racing Bulls on the 9th place. I don't think that Yuki has moved his game a lot. Like he's an alright driver, mid-table driver, but nothing spectacular, and we don't see, at least in the past 2 years, let's say, I haven't seen any progress from him. Hadjar, nothing interesting again for me. And I think with the general development of Red Bull that is not looking pretty good, and with Racing Bulls being, well, at a relatively low level during last season, and with no significant upgrades, and with, I think there is like little motivation in that team, things are not looking amazing before 2026, and I think it is going to be not very impressive season for them.
I will actually disagree, and I say that Haas will be 9th because the testing was not really impressive on their side. I saw that the lap times were at the bottom of the field, and also, I don't know, I think that Racing Bulls will be slightly better than Haas at least. Like I think Yuki Tsunoda will actually have a good season. Like I don't know if he will like impress everybody, but still I think that Haas's machinery will be bad enough to place them ninth. And even though they have two good drivers, still it's gonna be up to the car.
I agree. I also have Haas in ninth place, and they had I wouldn't say an awful test because they actually did like the second most amount of laps. They were only one lap off of having the most, and Esteban Ocon as an individual did the most laps with 260, which is quite impressive. But their lap times were absolutely nowhere every single day of testing, and that's my concern. They seem to have lost all of the pace that they had last season and what managed to really establish them in the midfield. I think this year, Haas and Sauber, I think they are a step behind the rest of the teams, and don't be surprised if we see both of these teams getting regularly knocked out in Q1. So yeah, I have Haas in ninth.
I place the three teams in the same category. Like for what I expect from them, like after the few 4 or 5 races, I expect like Sauber to be one step behind Haas and Racing Bulls, but Haas and Racing Bulls to have the same pace, to have relatively same qualifying times, and I think it will come down to the drivers. And I personally have more belief in Esteban Ocon and Oli Berman rather than Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar, and that is why I've placed Haas on 8th place. I was also not impressed with their test results, but I think the drivers, we're going to see an occasional really good performance from either Berman or Ocon, in my opinion. And when you're at the bottom of the table, it's not a thing that you should constantly be performing at your top level to make sure that your team is going to secure, let's say, a 7, 8 or 9th place. I think it is the occasional really good races that are going to make like the ranking of the constructors at the end of the season. And I think there are more opportunities for either Ocon or Berman to get this, let's say, some random 7th or 8th place.
Speaking of 8th place, let's go to 8th place in our predictions. My 8th place is Aston Martin, and I think that they had an awful end to last year, and their testing was pretty terrible as well. I don't see any hope in this car, and although they just got officially Adrian Newey starting work last week, I think, or even a few days ago, I think this team is in a terrible situation right now. I think with someone like Lance Stroll in one of your seats, that's really gonna pull you down. And over the last couple of years, I'd say he has seemed so unmotivated to drive, and I don't expect to see any kind of good results from him. Knocked out of Q1 regularly, and yeah, I just barely see him scoring points at all. Fernando Alonso will do his best, but I think we'll see a lot of team radio this year, Fernando Alonso criticizing the car, and that car is getting worse and worse. And I think that obviously 2026 new regulations, but they have seriously fallen off in terms of development, and we know how bad their development has been over the last few years in terms of mid-season development. So I have no hope for Aston Martin this year. I think 8th place, they're most likely going to be my flop team of the year.
I actually agree with David, and I think they're gonna be 8th because, as Vasco spoke of momentum, I think that Aston Martin's momentum is negative right now. They're just becoming worse with time, and as we know, their upgrades are almost never working, so they're just gonna be like there at the bottom of the field, but they're gonna be better than Sauber and Haas. I mean, it's gonna be horrible if they are even behind these teams. Like, they'll get occasional points, as you said. Fernando Alonso is in this team, so that's gonna boost for sure.
That's what makes it like strange that you've placed them on 8th place, because Fernando Alonso, even if he's like in super bad car, I think he's going to constantly be like close to the top 10 or in the top 10. I am sure in that.
Do we think one driver can seriously boost their points to that extent? Because
it has been like that for the past 2 years.
They were 5th in both years. They performed to expectations with Fernando Alonso. So and now with a worse car, with I think better competition in the midfield.
Well,
I think that Fernando Alonso will not get as many points opportunities as you think.
we're not talking about the midfield here. We're talking about the bottom of the field, and I just think that Tsunoda, Hadjar, Ocon, Behrman, Bortoleto, Hülkenberg. I don't think that anybody is on the same level as Alonso, and I think their cars, like, there won't be that much of a gap between the performance of Racing Bulls and Aston Martin, let's say. And even if Racing Bulls, if they have the faster car, I think that Fernando is going to have better performances even in worse car than, let's say, Hadjar.
What about Lance Stroll?
I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I'm in trouble. As one very famous person said. I think Lance Stroll, I was even considering to put him like bottom of the list, but I haven't done that. But if he's like last place in the driver standings, I won't be surprised in any way. Like in worse car than he has driven compared to the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. He haven't been in a like very bad car for a very long time. So yeah, I think Alonso is going to carry that team very hard, but I think he's capable of doing this. Can we move to 7th?
What was your 8th place? Because I don't think you ever said. We just talked about Aston Martin.
I said it, you just missed it. It was Haas.
It was Haas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your 7th place is Aston Martin, I would assume.
Yeah, my 7th place is Aston Martin.
Okay. And
Okay.
yours?
My 7th place is Racing Bulls.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the bog standard position for that team. I think Tsunoda has performed well over the last few seasons, and I think he'll once again perform at a similar level. Isaac Hadjar, good F2 driver. I don't expect anything spectacular from him, but I think he'll do the job, if I may, and they'll get some points here and there. And yeah, 7th place sounds exactly like a position they would finish.
Do you expect some random mid-season swaps in that team if the things are not going well? Because this is like the most typical thing that Racing Bulls have been doing for the past 2 years.
I mean, I don't see it. I think they'll be fine with their drivers. I actually think more likely for Yuki Tsunoda to leave before the end of the season because of his frustration with the team, and I think that only if there's some kind of scandal, then there would be some kind of change. But other than that, purely performance based, I think both drivers will perform a good amount for them.
I agree. I think that like the best option for a replacement is Arvid Lindblad probably, even though he's still in F2. But moving on to 6th place, I will say it's Alpine, because they have actually been okay in this preseason test. They've shown some good pace. They're gonna be better than the beginning of last year, surely. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Okay is an understatement. I would say they actually had the biggest improvement on their testing compared to last year with 2 seconds, which is incredible compared to last year, where I believe they qualified 19th and 20th in Bahrain. So they've come a long way. Great test for them. Pierre Gasly is going to have a great season. I can feel it. The only question mark there is the driver lineup, and of course Jack Doohan under threat for his seat. But their car looks good. I think it looks comfortably better than the 4 teams below them, at least the 4 teams that I have below them. So yeah, 6th place. They finished 6th last year, but I think this will be a different kind of 6th place and actually earned 6th place.
Definitely, I've placed them on the 6th place too, and I don't think it would be because of some random race in Brazil. I think that would be because the car is so much better, and Gasly has been really good for the past few years, and last season he was like I can consider him like the king of the midfield, him and Alonso probably fighting for that spot, and he's going to be even better this season. I think he's gradually progressing with every season. The car is looking alright. I don't think there would be any like super significant upgrades to that car, but I think they're going to have like pretty fast pace throughout the whole season. The only concern for that team is that they always find a way to not really get the things exactly right, and I'm wondering what problem is going to occur this season. Like what is their mistake going to be? And also with the driver situation, like Jack Doohan, it seems like he hasn't even raced once during this season. He only has one or two races.
One race in Abu Dhabi.
Only one race in Abu Dhabi, and it seems like they already want to like get rid of him and put Franco Colapinto in that place. So I hope that won't disturb the team's dynamic, but with the recent history of Alpine and what happened in that team, I think there are going to be some trouble surrounding them. I'm just wondering where they're going to come from. But for now, 6th. And can we move on to the 5th place?
Yeah, I think it's the surprise package of testing. It's Williams, obviously. They have shown incredible improvement since last year, and I think that they will be the best of the rest, so to say. They're going to be leading the midfield, and they have two very capable drivers, I would say. And I think that they're going to have a great season finally.
I agree. I think Williams had probably the best test out of all of the teams. Carlos Sainz, fastest lap overall in testing for Williams. I can't remember the last time that's ever happened. And yeah, they were very good. Also pretty reliable, good amount of laps. And yeah, I really like their driver lineup. I really like what they've done with the car. It seems like a polar opposite, which is crazy because James Vallis was always being like 2026, just wait until 2026, and that's when we'll get the car in a good state. But they got it a year early, and I'm looking forward to consistent points finishes, Q3 appearances from this team because they have been struggling for a while now. And yeah, it's good to see Williams finally looking like they're going to move up the table in a substantial way.
I also think the same. I think first that Williams and Aston Martin are going to switch their roles in a way, like how it was very easy for Aston Martin in the past 2 seasons to like secure that fifth spot and be competitive once in a while and have regular Q3 appearances and all that stuff. And I think this is going to be the case for Williams this season. I think the fact that they brought Carlos Sainz to the team is a huge statement. And I'm not sure how this is going to affect Alex Albon, but I don't think you have to think about Alex Albon when you have Carlos Sainz like constantly performing. Amazing testing for him, amazing testing for Williams. They're fast, they're looking fast, at least for the first time in 9 years. So I can tell that I have very high expectations from them, and I cannot wait to see like the first race of the season, how they're going to perform. Because if we see, let's say, Q3 appearances for both cars and like 6th, 7th, 8th place for one of their drivers, then the season is going to look very promising for Williams. Moving on to 4th.
Okay, for me, 4th place is Red Bull, because I think that they have taken a step back. This car is even slower than the one from last year, and I think that Mercedes will actually outperform them based on like car performance and probably like George Russell. You'll see in my driver predictions. But Red Bull, I think this is the same argument, but they have focused on 2026. But I still, it's just that I don't have trust in this car from what I saw in testing.
I actually don't think they focus on 2026. It's just that they're really continuing on from their concept of last year. And last year, remember how badly their upgrades went, which was quite surprising for Red Bull. Actually, they're usually upgrade kings. But yeah, now they won't have a car that's ahead of the field at the start of the season. So not only will they start off slow, but also without Adrian Newey, I don't think their development will go particularly well. And their driver lineup, although they have Max Verstappen, they have Liam Lawson, who is quite unproven, and I don't believe that much in that driver lineup to put them anything higher than 4th. I think they'll be quite off the top spot. And yeah, fourth place for me as well.
I have placed Mercedes at third place because I think although tests were not looking very impressive for Red Bull, I think that Mercedes, they have one very inexperienced driver, and particularly I can say that I think Kimi Antonelli is a huge talent, but I don't think he's going to perform on a very high level throughout this season, and I think this is going to cost Mercedes. And I'm not sure how they're going to develop their car throughout the season, but I'm sure that they're going to focus a lot on 2026, because I'm sure that they're not considering 2025 as an opportunity for them for either drivers or constructors championship. So that is why I think at one point of the season most of the teams will finish with their upgrades, and we're not going to see very different any other upgrades from them. But I think that this season is going to look a bit chaotic in a way, and different teams are going to have advantage on different tracks. So I think there would be some moments when Red Bull would be strong and fast again. And for Mercedes, I think they would constantly be looking okay, but nothing spectacular that can bring them more points than, let's say, Max Verstappen when he's at his best.
I disagree to some extent. I have Mercedes in third place, but I think their car looks much more consistent compared to last year based on testing. They did the most laps. George Russell had a great 2024, and I think he'll have a great 2025 as well. I think he's a proven driver, proven race winner, of course, and I think they'll be consistent. I think Kimi Antonelli will be more consistent than Liam Lawson, because I think the pressure in Red Bull is much higher than the pressure in Mercedes. And when you're 18 years old, I don't think that there's that much expectation for you. Whereas Liam Lawson, this will technically be his third season in F1, and they really pushed him to get into that seat. So I think he will crack under that pressure, and I think Kimi Antonelli is in the better environment, and I think in the more consistent car in terms of behavior. That Red Bull, we saw not only in testing but over the last few years that it is very inconsistent with its stability and its balance.
But the first one is stepping in the boots of Lewis Hamilton, and the second one is stepping in the boots of Sergio Perez. And I think that Mercedes are going to be fine with whatever Kimi does, but I think that would be his, let's say try do some mistakes but do some good stuff too. But I think it would be primarily not very impressive performances and some mistakes from him, but I think that would result in that would have very positive impact for Kimi for 2026. But I think I have low expectations for him for this season. Harry?
I actually agree with David, and I think Mercedes will be third. And I also think that Kimi Antonelli, maybe he will need some time, but after that he will perform at a really high level and he will outperform Liam Lawson. And we can move on to the top two, actually, which is a really interesting one. I'll start. I'll say that Ferrari will be second, even though it can go either way. It's kind of uncertain because these two teams have proved that they're better than the others. And I still think that McLaren will have the better car on some occasions, on some tracks. As Vasco said, it depends on tracks. And maybe I'll be wrong. Let's see.
I agree. I put Ferrari second. I think that testing was not impressive from Ferrari, and I was a little disappointed. Even though I was so hyped going into the season, you have Charles Leclerc, you have Lewis Hamilton. That car doesn't seem like it can match the McLaren, at least for the moment. I think McLaren, their driver lineup, both their drivers have been in that team for a couple of years now. Well, Lando Norris has been there for quite a long time, but I think they will be more consistent than the two Ferrari drivers, and they'll able to get the job done in the constructors, similarly to last season, I suppose.
I have something different. I have placed McLaren at second and Ferrari at first. And I think we look at the things from different perspective. And out there now, the two of you, I think, focus primarily on the car's performance and what you've seen from testing. But I think this season is going to look a bit different. Cars are going to be like we'll have the usual separation. I think there will be three separate groups. The first one will be the first four teams, as usual. The midfield battle between Williams and Alpine, and the rest of the teams would be at the bottom. But I think at one point of the season, the performance of the cars would be pretty close to each other. If I think that they're going to be something different if one of the teams makes like an amazing upgrade, but I don't think that would be the case. And I think at one point it would be much more important, like how your drivers are going to perform, especially at the end of the season, compared to what is the pace and what are the capabilities of your car. And that is why I think I have much more faith in Hamilton-Leclerc duo than McLaren's Norris and Piastri. And that is why I've placed Ferrari as the constructors champions for 2025.
That's fair assessment to make. Although I still think that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri is a fantastic driver lineup regardless, and I think Lewis Hamilton will take time to settle into that team for sure. So I think there's also that factor you have to consider.
Well, we're talking about two amazing duos, but it is just that Leclerc and Hamilton, they have that clutch moment performance in them. They also have the experience of being at the very top. At least Hamilton, but Leclerc has also proven that when he has the car, then he can compete, which I think is not exactly the case for Lando and Piastri. I really like Piastri, but I still think there is something missing, and this season is going to be very important for him. I think in some of the past episodes I mentioned that 2025 would decide whether he's going to take the next step and be considered at the beginning of 2026 on the same level as Lando, or whether he's going to be considered the number 2 driver. And this season is going to be really, really important.
Okay, our driver predictions now. And let's start off with Vasco's predictions.
Well, for 21st, I have Jack Doohan because I think he would be dropped and he would be replaced with Franco Colapinto. But I think we can start like from 21st to 10th, and after that like to the top. I think 21st Jack Doohan, 20th Isaac Hadjar, 19th Bortoleto, 18th Hülkenberg, 17th Oli Behrman, 16th Lance Stroll, even though I won't be surprised if Lance Stroll is even 21st at the end of the season. Yuki Tsunoda 15th, Esteban Ocon 14th, Franco Colapinto 13th, 12 for Alex Albon, 11 for Fernando Alonso, 10 for Pierre Gasly.
My, I guess 21 to 10, I also think Jack Doohan will be dropped, but I don't think he'll be last. 21st, Nico Hülkenberg, 20th, Gabriel Bortoleto, 19th, Jack Doohan, 18th, Lance Stroll, 17th, Isaac Hadjar, 16th, Oli Behrman, 15th, Esteban Ocon, 14th, Franco Colapinto, who will replace Jack Doohan, 13th, Fernando Alonso, 12th, Yuki Tsunoda, 11th, Alex Albon, and 10th, Pierre Gasly.
Mine, 21st, Jack Doohan. We've all agreed on that. 20th, Lance Stroll. 19th, Gabriel Bortoleto, 18th, Isaac Hadjar, 17th, Nico Hülkenberg, 16th, Franco Colapinto, 15th, Oli Behrman, 14th, Ocon, 13th, Fernando Alonso, 12th, Yuki Tsunoda, 11th, Alex Albon, and 10th, Pierre Gasly.
Now I feel pretty bad for putting Lance Stroll at 16 because I was just thinking how he's going to, like, I don't think he's going to be last. Is it too harsh to put him last? But yeah, I guess it's not too harsh.
He's like the worst driver.
Yeah. So let's move to 9th to 4th, and after that reveal our top 3s.
Yeah.
9th, Carlos Sainz. I expect miracles from him this season. I really like him. I think he's going to perform at top level, and he's going to bring Williams that 5th place. For 8th, I have Kimi Antonelli. I've already said that I don't have very high expectations for him, but we'll see what is going to happen. For 7, I have Liam Lawson. I also don't have like super high expectations from him, but I hope he would be better than Checo. For sixth, I have George Russell. As I said, I don't think Mercedes would be as good as you think they would be. For fifth, I have Oscar Piastri, and for fourth, I have Lewis Hamilton.
For ninth place for me, I have Carlos Sainz, same reasons as you. Eighth place, Liam Lawson. Car is not as good as it was before, and I don't think it'll look as bad if Lawson is eighth when his teammate is not world champion, for example. Seventh, Kimi Antonelli. I think he'll have a great season. Sixth, George Russell. I think they'll actually be pretty evenly matched. Fifth, Max Verstappen. And fourth, Lewis Hamilton.
I have almost the same as David. The only difference is fourth. So ninth, Carlos Sainz. Eighth, Liam Lawson. Seventh, Kimi Antonelli. Sixth, George Russell. Fifth, Max Verstappen. And fourth, Oscar Piastri.
And can we move to third place? Who do you have on your third place, Harry?
I have Lewis Hamilton.
I have Oscar Piastri.
I have Lando Norris.
Wow. Didn't expect that one. Okay, I have Lando on second place.
Second place, I also have Lando Norris.
Which
Yeah.
means that our world champion with David is Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc, yeah.
Yep.
Guys, what? Have you just looked at, like, oh, can I copy your homework?
Actually, I don't know how it happened. We haven't talked about this
Yeah, like
before.
almost all of your predictions are
I
the
know.
same.
I would like to ask Harry, because I see he has both Ferrari drivers finishing ahead of both McLaren drivers, but he has McLaren winning the constructors.
Right, I think that the difference in points between Norris and Hamilton will be large enough so that like McLaren can finish.
But it doesn't matter because
Really?
Charles Leclerc outscores Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton outscores Oscar Piastri,
Yeah.
which means Ferrari win the constructors.
Oh, okay. So
I
then
think.
I changed my constructive prediction, and I
Okay.
think that Ferrari will win it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's only logical.
Okay.
Well, for second place, I have Charles Leclerc, and I believe that Verstappen is going to be world champion again. I think it's
Okay.
like super unpopular take, but I think he's that good, and I think the car, people are overstating how bad this car is going to be. I think with some upgrades and with the stop development for most of the teams, I think Verstappen is going to be constantly performing. Even when the car is not good, he's going to be close to the podium places or even on the podium. And when he has the opportunity, he's going to grab it. And in season where everything is scattered around and everybody, I think in different races, there would be different strong cars and there would be different winners. I think we can see like 6, 7 winners throughout the season. I think just Verstappen is going to be the guy who is going to take the most out of this. Not that he's going to have the best car, but the fact that he's the best out of all the drivers currently.
I think we can all agree Max Verstappen is the best driver in the world at the moment. And I wouldn't blame you if you predicted him to finish fourth or even third. First place against Ferrari and McLaren. It's not happening. It's just not, because this Red Bull is worse than last year. And they will not have the start to the season that they had last year. I think the competition is higher. Lando Norris, for example, will be a better driver. Charles Leclerc is at his peak performance-wise, and with a better car, I think he beats Max Verstappen. And yeah, also Lewis Hamilton entering the fight, and Oscar Piastri, who I think will be a much stronger driver than in previous years. I think that the competition will be too tough for Max Verstappen to perform in that car specifically. I don't think that Red Bull, development-wise, also I think they'll be worse than McLaren and Ferrari. So logically, there is no hope for Max Verstappen to win this Drivers' Championship in my eyes.
I think you actually just supported my argument, because if there are 4 or 5 strong contenders from other teams that are going to separate all the wins between them, and I think just Verstappen is going to be the guy, even if he has less wins than, let's say, Norris or Leclerc, he's going to maximize on the points that he's getting from every race. And also, I know that this is pretty unpopular pick, but I want an apology from you if Verstappen wins the title for 2025, like public apology, posting it on Facebook. I want to apologize to @Vasil Pascu for having like zero F1 knowledge.
You already have zero F1 knowledge, so it's fine. But
let me tell you who won last year's prediction.
anyways,
Anyways,
Max Verstappen. We'll see what he does. I think he'll have an all right season, but still, just the car won't be as good. But yes, Vasco.
yeah, I just want to mention something. I think there would be at least two people who are not in the top four teams that would stand on the podium during this season. I think most probably it is going to be Sainz and Gasly. This is my random prediction for the season. And if you have some random predictions, you can tell them now. Or if not, we can move to our predictions for Australia and conclusion to the episode.
Sure, my random prediction, I guess I will say, is that Lance Stroll won't score more than 5 points this whole season.
Oh, how
I know
bold.
it might be, but I think that he will have an awful season and could actually get fired.
And now the surprise prediction of Harry is, oh yeah, Lance Stroll is going to get more than
I mean,
5 points.
I don't know how bold you want me to say. I mean, like, Kimi Antonelli beating Liam Lawson is not bold. Kimi Antonelli will win a race. That is my prediction. Yeah.
I like this one. I mean, I was gonna say something about Lance Stroll, but now you've already used the chance, so...
No, I haven't. Kimi Antonelli.
Oh, okay. So I would say Lance Stroll will have less than 5 points on the board. And I will say my top three for Australia. First place for Charles Leclerc, second place for Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen will be on the podium for me.
For me, first place, Lando Norris. Second place, Charles Leclerc. Third place, Oscar Piastri. McLaren will get going off the gates, in my opinion.
I've decided to go super alternative on Australia, and I don't have any Ferrari. I don't have Ferrari on the podium, which is I think that there is going to be some problem. Like at the beginning of the season, there are always some issues with Ferrari. Yeah. Third place Verstappen, second place Norris. I think Piastri is taking a win in the first race of the season.
Okay, Vasco decided to just be like super
Alternative.
today. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed, but this is all for today from us. We're looking forward to the next episode. Till then, like, subscribe, and follow us in AUBG Daily on Instagram and Facebook, and stay tuned for more of our content. Thank you, and remember,
If you no longer go for a gap that exists,
You're no longer a racing driver.